Captain James Reed of the Earth medical vessel, Mercy, watched the distress signal replay for the third time. The alien ship, clearly of Vespian design, hung dead in space, emergency lights pulsing weakly against the cold void. "Confirmed authentic?" Reed asked his communications officer. Lisa nodded. "Yes, sir. Standard Galactic Council distress protocol. Life support failing, severe hull damage from a micrometeorite collision. Approximately 74 crew members still alive, but oxygen levels critical." Reed nodded grimly. Earth had only recently joined the Galactic Council, still proving itself worthy among the stars. Humanity's admission had been controversial. Many elder species viewed humans as too aggressive, too unpredictable. But Earth had worked hard to demonstrate its humanitarian values, and the Mercy was the flagship of that effort, the most advanced medical rescue vessel in the quadrant. "ETA to intercept?" Reed asked. 17 minutes, Captain," the pilot replied. "We're pushing the engines to maximum." Reed tapped his console. "All medical teams to stations. Prepare for mass casualty response. Engineering. Ready all docking." Protocols. The Mercy streaked through the darkness, its white hull gleaming under distant starlight. The vessel represented humanity's best face. A ship built not for war but for salvation. When the Galactic Council had reluctantly admitted Earth, they'd imposed strict conditions. Human ships would remain unarmed, and Earth would contribute, primarily to rescue and relief efforts while learning civilization from the elder species. Some military leaders back on Earth had protested, but most humans had embraced the role. The Mercy was crewed by the best doctors, engineers, and rescue specialists Earth had to offer. As they approached the damaged Vespian vessel, something caught Tactical Officer Mark's attention. "Captain, I'm detecting anomalous energy readings from the ship." Reed frowned. "Clarify." "Sir, their reactor isn't damaged. It's powered down intentionally, and I'm registering multiple small objects detaching from..." The tactical display erupted in blinding light. "Missiles!" Mark shouted. "They're firing on us!" Reed gripped his chair. "Evasive maneuvers!" But the Mercy wasn't built for combat. Without weapons or military-grade shields, the medical vessel shuddered as the first impacts tore through its hull. Emergency alarms wailed throughout the ship. "It's a trap," Lisa whispered in horror. Through the view screen, Reed watched as the damaged Vespian vessel suddenly powered up, its engines glowing brightly. 3 more ships materialized from behind a nearby asteroid field, predators emerging from ambush. "All hands abandon ship," Reed ordered, even as another blast rocked the vessel. "Get to the escape pods." The bridge crew scrambled while Reed activated the emergency broadcast. "Mayday, mayday. This is EMV Mercy under unprovoked attack by Vespian vessels. We are an unarmed medical ship responding to their distress call." As the Mercy began breaking apart, escape pods jettisoned into space. The Vespian ships, rather than allowing the medical personnel to flee, began systematically targeting the pods with precision weapons. Reed watched in horror as pod after pod exploded in silent fireballs against the blackness of space. His final transmission cut through subspace channels, broadcasting directly to Earth Command and the Galactic Council simultaneously. "They're killing us all. Targeting escape pods deliberately. We came to save them. Remember what happened here." The bridge exploded around him as the Mercy died. Across 27 worlds, humans watched the final moments of their medical ship in stunned silence. The Mercy's cameras had broadcast everything: the distress call, the response, the ambush, and the methodical slaughter of unarmed medical personnel. On Earth, the War Council convened before the transmission had even ended. General Laura Hayes entered the Emergency War Council chamber as the final images from the Mercy played on the main screen. The room was silent except for the occasional sharp intake of breath as the representatives of Earth's unified government watched their people being slaughtered. When the transmission cut to static, President Thomas Wilson turned to face the assembled leaders. His face was carved from stone. 412 personnel, doctors, nurses, engineers, rescue specialists. The president's voice was dangerously quiet. They answered a call for help, and they were butchered for it. Defense Secretary Alan Brown stepped forward. Mr. President, the Vespians have just violated every principle of the Galactic Accords. This was a deliberate trap for an unarmed humanitarian vessel. The Council restrictions, began the diplomatic liaison, no longer apply. Wilson cut in. Article 17 of our admission agreement explicitly states that in the event of unprovoked aggression against Earth vessels, all restrictions on our military capacity are automatically suspended. General Hayes cleared her throat. Mr. President, Operation Sword of Damocles can be initiated within the hour. Several council members exchanged shocked glances. The existence of hidden military capabilities had been Earth's most closely guarded secret. The Vespians believe we're defenseless, Hayes continued. They don't know about the covert fleet. They don't know about the orbital platforms. They think we've been obediently playing the part of the primitive species learning galactic citizenship. Wilson nodded slowly. How long have the Vespians been planning this? Intelligence Director Kate Morgan stepped forward. We believe this is part of a larger strategy, sir. Intercepted communications suggest the Vespian hegemony has been quietly building forces for months. They've always opposed our admission to the Council. Based on the coordination of this attack, they're likely planning strikes against our colonies next. Wilson turned to the representatives from Mars, Europa, and the outer colonies. Your people will be targeted next. Are you with Earth on this? They nodded grimly. Then, as of this moment, Earth and her colonies are at war with the Vespian hegemony. Wilson looked at General Hayes. Activate Sword of Damocles. Full deployment. Throughout the Sol system, hidden installations began to awaken. Beneath the lunar surface, beneath the ice of Europa, within the rings of Saturn, stealth shipyards that had been operating in secret despite the Council restrictions suddenly burst into activity. Aboard the Galactic Council station, Ambassador David Miller received the encrypted message from Earth just as the Vespian delegation was presenting their version of events, claiming the Mercy had violated their territory and fired first. Miller interrupted the proceedings by projecting the complete unedited transmission from the Mercy. My government has instructed me to inform the Council that as of 17 minutes ago, Earth has declared a state of war against the Vespian hegemony, Miller announced when the recording ended. In accordance with Article 17 of our admission agreement, all restrictions on Earth's military capacity are now lifted. The Council chamber erupted in chaos as warning signals suddenly blared throughout the station. The long-range sensors had detected something impossible. A fleet of 127 warships had just appeared in formation near Jupiter, emerging from stealth configurations. Earth had never been as defenseless as it had pretended to be. Admiral Jack Porter stood on the bridge of the Earth warship Retribution, watching as his fleet dropped their stealth fields in perfect synchronization. For 5 years, these ships had been built and trained in absolute secrecy, Earth's insurance. Policy against a galaxy that might not be as peaceful as it pretended to be. All vessels reporting combat ready, Admiral, his XO reported. Task Forces Alpha through Delta are awaiting jump coordinates. Porter nodded grimly. Send the message to all ships. Operation Righteous Fury is active. Primary targets are Vespian, military installations only. Avoid civilian casualties where possible, but make no mistake. We are bringing the war to their doorstep. Throughout the fleet, crews who had trained for years in secret now moved with cold efficiency. Earth had maintained the facade of submission while quietly preparing for this exact scenario. The ships bristled with weapon systems unknown to the wider galaxy, technologies Earth had developed in isolation, untainted by galactic standardization. Sir, Communications Officer Ben said, we're receiving transmissions from multiple Council species. They're demanding explanations. Send them the Mercy footage on repeat, Porter replied. No other response. The massive fleet split into 4 task forces. Within moments, they vanished into FTL jumps, bound for predetermined targets throughout Vespian space. On Vespia Prime, High Commander Drex was celebrating the successful ambush of the human vessel. The weakling species had been too trusting, too eager to help. Their elimination would be the first step in the hegemony's expansion. The humans have no significant military, Drex told his war council. Their colonies are undefended. By the Time the Galactic Council intervenes, we will present them with a fait accompli. The tactical officer interrupted with alarm. High Commander, multiple unidentified vessels have appeared in orbit. They've bypassed our early warning network. Drex rushed to the command center in time to see the impossible. 32 heavily armed warships of distinctly human design had appeared in formation above the capital. Before he could issue orders, the lead vessel broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Porter of the Earth Warship Retribution. Your forces have committed an act of war against humanity by destroying our unarmed medical vessel. You specifically targeted escape pods containing non-combatant medical personnel. In accordance with Earth war protocols, you are offered one opportunity to surrender unconditionally within the next 5 minutes. After that, we will disable your planetary defenses and military installations with extreme prejudice. Drex sneered. These humans are bluffing. Activate all planetary defense systems. Launch the home fleet. Vespia's much-vaunted orbital defense network came online, aiming at the Earth vessels. Their home fleet, 47 warships, began moving to intercept. 5 minutes later, Drex watched in horror as his defenses were systematically dismantled. The human weapons cut through Vespian shields as if they weren't there. Their targeting systems ignored standard electronic countermeasures. Their hulls absorbed direct hits with minimal damage. Within 20 minutes, the entire Vespian home fleet was disabled or destroyed. The planetary defense grid was offline, and the human fleet hung in orbit, weapons still hot, waiting. Admiral, Porter's voice came through again. Your military capabilities have been neutralized. We could reduce your cities to ash as you would have done to us. Instead, we will accept the unconditional surrender of your government and military leadership for trial under galactic law for war crimes. You have 1 hour to comply. Across Vespian space, the same scene played out as human task forces systematically dismantled military installations, shipyards, and defense systems with surgical precision. The species that had thought humans weak discovered just how grievously they had miscalculated. The Mercy Massacre, as it was already being called, had awakened a sleeping giant. The Galactic Council's emergency session had been running for 17 hours straight as reports flooded in from across Vespian space. The elder species representatives were in shock as they reviewed the tactical data. Impossible, muttered Counselor Thrix of the Meldarian Collective. The humans completely neutralized the Vespian military in under 6 hours. The Vespians have been a military power for centuries. Ambassador Miller sat calmly at the human seat, facing the accusations and demands for explanation with steady resolve. Earth has never revealed the full extent of its defensive capabilities, Miller acknowledged. Our history taught us to be prepared, even while hoping for peace. The restrictions placed upon us were accepted in good faith, but we maintained contingencies. This goes beyond contingencies. The Zoltan representative's appendages trembled with agitation. You concealed an entire war fleet. As was our right, Miller replied coolly. No provision in our admission agreement required us to disclose pre-existing military assets. We simply agreed not to deploy them until Article 17 was triggered by direct aggression against our people. He activated a holographic display showing the dying moments of the Mercy once more. They targeted medical personnel in escape pods. Every species in this chamber has signed the Accords of War that explicitly prohibit such actions. On Earth, President Wilson addressed the unified government as the Vespian leadership was taken into custody, fellow citizens of Earth and her colonies. Today we have demonstrated that humanity's compassion is not weakness. We extended the hand of friendship to the galaxy, only to have it bitten. Let our response serve as a clear message. Earth protects its own. Public support for the swift military action was overwhelming. Footage of the Mercy's destruction had spread throughout human territories, igniting a cold fury unlike anything seen in generations. Meanwhile, Admiral Porter's fleet maintained position around Vespia Prime. Ground forces had secured key military installations without a single civilian casualty, a point that Earth propaganda made repeatedly in broadcasts. To the wider galaxy, this is the difference between us, the broadcast stated. When they attacked, they deliberately targeted our defenseless medical personnel. When we responded, we spared their civilians entirely. The stark contrast was not lost on watching species. Many who had viewed humans with suspicion began reassessing their understanding of the newcomers. Earth's response had been overwhelming yet precise, displaying not just military might but remarkable restraint. In his temporary headquarters on Vespia Prime, Admiral Porter received a transmission from Earth Command. Phase 2 is authorized, came the encoded message. Operation Pax Humana begins now. Porter summoned his staff. We're implementing the occupation protocol. I want a complete inventory of Vespian military technology and industrial capacity. Their shipyards are to be repurposed immediately. His intelligence officer looked up in surprise. Sir? Earth isn't simply winning this war, Commander. We're ensuring it never happens again, Porter explained. For too long, the elder species have viewed us as primitive newcomers to be tolerated and restricted. The Vespians made the mistake of testing our resolve. Now we demonstrate why that was unwise. Throughout occupied Vespian territory, human forces began a systematic process of disarmament and restructuring. Military bases were converted to humanitarian aid centers. Weapon factories were retooled to produce medical equipment. The message was clear. Resist and face overwhelming force. Cooperate and receive assistance. Many Vespians, particularly those who had opposed their government's aggressive stance, began working with the human occupation forces. Stories spread of human medical teams treating Vespian wounded with the same care they would show their own. The galaxy watched with a mixture of fear and fascination. The humans had revealed themselves to be not just fearsome warriors, but masters of the subtle art of post-war transformation, and this was just the beginning. 3 months after the Mercy massacre, the galaxy had fundamentally changed. Earth, previously viewed as a junior member of the Galactic Council, now sat at the center of a rapidly expanding alliance of species. The human-led Coalition for Mutual Defense had already attracted 17 member species, mostly smaller powers who had long lived in fear of aggression from elder species like the Vespians. In the council chamber, Ambassador Miller presented Earth's non-negotiable terms for peace. The Vespian hegemony will be dissolved and reformed as a democratic federation under supervision for the next 20 years, Miller stated. Their military capacity will be limited to defensive operations only, and they will provide full reparations to the families of the Mercy crew. The elder species representatives shifted uncomfortably. Earth's demands were reasonable, almost generous by galactic standards, yet the implied threat behind them was unmistakable. Furthermore, Miller continued, Earth formally rejects the restrictions placed upon us at admission. We will maintain our full military capacity while establishing the Humanitarian Defense Initiative, a rapid response force to protect medical and aid ships throughout Council space. What had begun as a justified response to aggression was evolving into a complete realignment of galactic power. Human ships, now openly armed, patrolled trade routes previously controlled by elder species. Earth technology, no longer hidden, was proving to be decades ahead of galactic standards in several key areas. On the former Vespian homeworld, now operating under an interim government, Admiral Porter walked through a recently converted manufacturing facility. Where once it had produced weapons of war, it now created advanced medical equipment. The first shipments go out tomorrow, explained Director Taylor, the civilian administrator overseeing the transition. Advanced cellular regenerators to the Maldivian worlds, emergency field hospitals to the Garaxian colonies. Porter nodded approvingly. And all clearly marked as joint Vespian human humanitarian projects. This was the genius of Operation Pax Humana. The conquered became partners, their resources redirected from war to healing. It was changing perceptions across the galaxy. On Earth, the War Council had transitioned into the Galactic Affairs Directorate, with General Hayes now serving as its head. She reviewed reports from throughout Council space. The Zlati Confederation is requesting defensive pacts, an aide reported, and the Quantum Collective has offered us access to their tachyon communication network. Hayes allowed herself a small smile. And the elder species? The Meldarians and Zoltans have lodged formal protests about our expanded military presence. The Phyrexians remain neutral, but have increased diplomatic communications. And the Arcturus Alliance? The aide hesitated. They've gone silent, General. Intelligence suggests they're conducting emergency meetings and reassessing their military capabilities. Hayes nodded thoughtfully. The Arcturus Alliance, longtime allies of the Vespians, represented the next potential threat to human expansion. But unlike the Vespians, they were watching carefully, measuring the new human threat with cold calculation. In a secure facility beneath the lunar surface, President Wilson toured Earth's most classified research installation. Chief Scientist Roberts explained the breakthroughs being displayed. The Vespian databases have confirmed what we suspected, Roberts said. The elder species have been deliberately suppressing certain technological advancements to maintain their dominance. Our independent development path accidentally bypassed these artificial constraints. Wilson studied the prototype engines being constructed. And this will give us another leap forward? By combining our gravitic compression technology with elements of Phyrexian field theory, which we access through our new council privileges, we've created an FTL system that's 3 times faster than anything currently in use. Wilson nodded solemnly. Humanity stepped onto the galactic stage seeking friendship. When that was betrayed with violence, we responded with overwhelming force. Now we must ensure we're never vulnerable again. Throughout human space, a new sense of purpose had taken hold. The species that had once been forced to play the role of humble newcomers had revealed themselves to be far more advanced and far more dangerous than anyone had suspected. And they were just getting started. 1 year after the Mercy massacre, Admiral Porter stood on the observation deck of Earth's newest vessel, the EFV Compassionate Justice. At 2 kilometers in length, it dwarfed anything previously seen in Council space. But unlike traditional warships, it was designed for a dual purpose. Its bow contained a massive medical complex that could treat tens of thousands of patients, while its stern housed military systems capable of defending entire star systems. Impressive, isn't she? Asked Fleet Admiral Garcia, who had joined him for the inspection tour. Porter nodded. She represents everything we've become. Healers who cannot be prevented from healing. The Compassionate Justice was the flagship of Earth's new humanitarian Guard, a fleet specifically designed to respond to crises throughout the galaxy. Each vessel carried both medical specialists and elite military units, ensuring that those who came to help would never again be vulnerable. The Arcturus Alliance has formally requested observer status for the commissioning ceremony, Garcia noted. They're sending their highest-ranking admiral. Porter smiled thinly. Good. Let them see exactly what they'd face if they consider following the Vespian example. Throughout the past year, Earth had transformed from a subordinate council, member to a galactic superpower. Human diplomatic and military representatives were now stationed in every major system. Earth medical technology, long held back by council restrictions, had been deployed throughout the galaxy, saving billions of lives and creating powerful goodwill. On former Vespian worlds, the interim governments were preparing for their first free elections. The once proud military power had been thoroughly reformed, with many former officers now serving in humanitarian roles. In the council chamber, Ambassador Miller, recently promoted to Earth's first galactic minister, addressed the assembled species. Today marks the anniversary of a tragic event that changed the course of galactic history, Miller began. The attack on the Mercy revealed a harsh truth, that compassion without strength is vulnerable to those who mistake kindness for weakness. The chamber was silent as Miller continued. Earth has since demonstrated that we possess both in abundance. Our humanitarian guard now stands ready to respond to any crisis anywhere in council space. Our medical teams have treated over 3 billion patients across 42 worlds in the past year alone. And our military forces have intercepted 17 attempts at piracy or aggression against civilian vessels. What went unsaid, but was understood by all, was that humanity had transformed from a newcomer species to the galaxy's most effective peacekeeping force in a remarkably short time. On Earth, President Wilson addressed the United World Assembly. 1. Year ago, we were awakened to the reality that not all species share our values, Wilson said solemnly. We responded not just with righteous fury, but with calculated purpose. Today, humanity stands as the guardian of those values throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Affairs Directorate had expanded into a massive organization, coordinating Earth's growing influence across Council space. General Hayes, now Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces, oversaw an intelligence network that spanned hundreds of worlds. The Arcturus Alliance has begun withdrawing forces from their border regions, an analyst reported. They're signaling clear non-aggressive intent. Hayes nodded. And the Elder Species Council? The Meldarians have proposed a formal alliance with Earth. The Zoltans remain officially neutral but have increased trade by 300%. The Phyrexians. The analyst hesitated. The Phyrexians have requested a private summit with Earth leadership. This was significant. The Phyrexians, the most ancient and technologically advanced of the elder species, had maintained a policy of non-interference for millennia. In the depths of space, at the edge of explored territory, a lone Earth vessel drifted silently. The stealth scout ship Vigilant Observer had been mapping unauthorized activity in the unclaimed regions when it detected something unprecedented. Energy signatures unlike anything in Earth's extensive databases. Commander Frank West studied the CARM readings with growing concern. Confirm analysis and prepare encrypted transmission to command. Priority Alpha. Whatever lurked beyond the frontier was neither Council nor known independent species, and its power signature dwarfed even Earth's most advanced vessels. As humanity celebrated its rise to galactic dominance, a new threat was watching from the darkness. The galaxy was about to discover that Earth wasn't the only power that had been hiding its true capabilities. 5 years after the Mercy Massacre, humanity's position in the galaxy seemed unassailable. The human-led coalition had expanded to include 34 species. Earth vessels patrolled the major trade routes, and human diplomatic influence extended to every corner of Council space. The Vespian worlds had been fully integrated into the coalition as equal partners. Their civilization transformed from militaristic empire to valued contributor of art, science, and medicine. Admiral Porter, now retirement age but serving as strategic advisor to Earth Command, stood before the War Council with grave news. The Omega threat is confirmed, he announced, displaying the sensor data that scout vessels had been secretly gathering for years. An advanced civilization exists beyond the galactic rim, and they have been observing Council space for at least 2 decades. General Hayes studied the projections. Capabilities? Beyond anything we've encountered, Porter replied grimly. Their technology appears to be at least a century ahead of even our most advanced systems, and based on their deployment patterns, they're preparing for large-scale operations. President Wilson, now in his 2nd term, looked troubled. Have they shown hostile intent? Not directly, Porter conceded, but their stealth vessels have penetrated deep into Council space, mapping our defenses and capabilities. Our assessment is that they're planning for eventual conquest, not just of Earth, but the entire Council. The revelation sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. After years of establishing themselves as the dominant power in known space, humanity now faced a threat that could overwhelm even their advanced military. We need to inform the Council, Wilson decided after lengthy deliberation. This affects all species, not just humanity. In the Grand Council chamber, now expanded to accommodate the many new species that had joined under Earth's sponsorship, Galactic Minister Miller presented the evidence of the extragalactic threat. The chamber erupted in panic as the implications became clear. How long have you known of this threat? Demanded the Meldarian representative. We detected initial anomalies 3 years ago, Miller admitted, but we needed confirmation before causing galaxy-wide alarm. The elder species representatives exchanged significant glances. After a tense silence, the Phyrexian envoy, a species known for its ancient wisdom and reluctance to engage in Council politics, activated its communication crystal. Perhaps now is the time for truth among allies, the Phyrexian stated. its translated voice resonating through the chamber. "The threat you have discovered is known to us. They are called the Voidborn, and they have conquered 12 galaxies in their expansion." Stunned silence gripped the chamber as the Phyrexian continued. "Your species was admitted to the Council not merely as an emerging civilization, but as a potential defender. For millennia, the elder species have watched for signs of the Voidborn's approach. We needed new allies, species that developed independently with unique approaches to technology and warfare." Miller's expression hardened as understanding dawned. "The restrictions placed on us were tests," the Phyrexian confirmed. "We needed to know how you would respond to limitation, to aggression. The Vespian attack was regrettable, but informative." "You knew?" Miller's voice was dangerously quiet. "You allowed our people to be slaughtered as a test?" "Not by our directive," the Phyrexian clarified. "But we observed your response with great interest. No species in 10,000 years has demonstrated humanity's combination of military efficiency and moral restraint. You could have eradicated the Vespians. Instead, you rehabilitated them. You could have established tyrannical control. Instead, you built alliances." On the view screen, new data appeared. The combined sensor readings of Earth's Scout network merged with ancient Phyrexian observatories. The Voidborn fleet was massive beyond comprehension, and it was accelerating toward Council space. "We stand at the precipice," the Phyrexian stated. "The elder species have technologies we have kept hidden just as you did. Together, perhaps we have a chance." Admiral Porter, watching the Council proceedings from Earth Command, felt a complex mixture of emotions. The manipulation was infuriating, yet he understood the cold logic behind it. Earth had proven itself not just through force of arms, but through the nobility of its response. In orbit around Earth, the memorial to the Mercy hung in space. A massive monument showing the medical vessel with hands of all species reaching toward it. The inscription read simply, "They came to heal. We came to defend. Together we stand against the darkness." As preparations for the coming conflict accelerated, humanity reflected on its journey. From newcomers to leaders, from victims to protectors, Earth had transformed itself and the galaxy around it. The attack on their rescuers had awakened not just humanity's terrible swift sword, but its profound capacity for rebuilding what war destroyed. Now, as a new and greater threat approached, the species of the galaxy looked to Earth not in fear, but in hope. The humans who had responded to cruelty with both overwhelming force and remarkable compassion would lead them against the darkness, beyond the stars. The Mercy had not died in vain. Its legacy lived on in a united galaxy preparing to face its greatest challenge, with humanity at its heart. End.